I'm recording now, but I'm going to post this tomorrow. This video is kind of a wonderment type of video where I'm gonna probably go off on a little bit of a tangent ahead of time, but ultimately I'm seeking others who may have some experience with what I'm about to talk to you with and this particular chronograph. Now, this particular chronograph is brand spanking new to me. Oddly enough, didn't come with any directions, but it is an RCBS, either Ammo Master or Load Master. Doesn't matter, but I was out at the range yesterday and I've got nearly 2 hours of video of pretty boring stuff, because when you're talking about working up a new load, you're talking paper, shots, velocities, looking for consistency with my eyes, consistency with the rifle, most important. And one thing I did learn is my eyes ain't crap. The best group I could get was 1 3/8 at 100 yards. For me, that's poor. I should either look at that as being poor or look at it as, with what I've got going on, I'm still hunting. But that being said, I'm going to cover a couple of things before I get started in what I was experiencing yesterday. But I've had this rifle out before. Now, this is a New England Firearms handy rifle that I have multiple barrels for, but this particular one was an old project of mine in .30-30 Winchester, in which I did a video called My Most Successful Failure, meaning I worked up a load at the time of 150 grain Nosler behind 37.1 of Leverevolution N540, and I was getting average velocities of 24.53. Accuracy wise, this was knockout. Reaching out to 300 yards, very capable of doing it. I could point blank range it at about 260 yards without any holdover at all. So, successful. However, by the time it reached that distance, it would not finish the job. In other words, it wasn't delivering enough energy downrange to deliver its load effectively. Now, the rant I want to go to is, to start with, is when it comes to history as well as firearms, there really isn't such a thing as any absolutes. Because at the time I showed this particular rifle, obviously single shot, and I made the statement that this bullet, which is now the bullet I'm at testing right now, which is 150 grain Hornady GMX, and that it was only made for this rifle. I would not expect anybody else to take my loads and throw it into any other rifle, because it was worked up specific. Now, I got a comment right off the bat that says, not load pointed soft point bullets in a tubular magazine. Automatically, I'm going to revert back to, there are no absolutes. History. I'm going to give you an example. Jim Bridger, or James Bridger, 1844 Trapper. Some people would look at that carved in the wall and go, Jim Bridger was illiterate. I look at that wall and I go, man wrote He spoke multiple native languages. What he didn't know, he did up in sign language. He had a memory like a hawk, and every winter, which is what I named my little studio after, is Rocky Mountain College. Every winter camp was referred to that. So when I look at that name, I say to him, well, it's not impossible that while sitting around a campfire, multiple readers didn't teach him how to write his own name. I don't know that they did, and I don't know that they didn't. Same thing here. Somebody starts spouting old arguing points about tubular magazines is a waste of time. Because A, yes, and B, no. Not ever going to endorse filling up a tube full of pointed soft points ever. But if you do it right and you think about it, you can load kind of the same philosophy and decide to shoot it single shot in this format. However, if you're looking at that and your first thing is can't run it through a tubular magazine because of pointed soft point bullets, you need to look again, because the overall length of this is over a ½ inch longer than the cartridge semi-specs overall length even is. So it's not going to function as it is now. Secondly, this will not even function in most bolt actions. However, that being said, it's not impossible to set these to cartridge overall length, put one in the chamber and one in the tube, and you're gone hunting. Not impossible. So if you're talking in absolutes and either or, pretty much are a fool. Anyway, so the point of this is, again, yesterday I had 2 hours of footage, all of it really boring, and I've got numbers that make me question the accuracy of this particular chronograph. Now, if you know anything about Ackley improving anything, and you can tell that this has a completely different shoulder now, the wall is straighter. Generally speaking, you can gain somewhere between 3 to 7% in case volume. After I fire formed this brass, I did a water capacity test, and if my math was correct, I got 6.8% gain in volume. Okay, here's where I start doubting myself, and I have talked to some prominent bullet people. Like I was talking to one yesterday, new out there, called Hammer Bullets, and he says, he kept going through the numbers with me, and he goes, you're not far off. So I don't know, but to me they sound dramatic. Now, as I've already said, my old load was 150 grains, Tubular partition with Leverevolution N540. So I've Ackley improved this. I've increased the case capacity. I believe it's 6.8%. And I start shooting 168 grain AMAX. 18 grains heavier than my old load. So I start out at exactly 5% over. Run those through. I really don't care much about the velocity there, because I know I got further to go, but then turned around and my next load was 38.3 grains. I figure near where I need to start watching, and I get these for numbers: 2572, 2566, 2561, and 2573. Not overly consistent. Not bad, but not overly consistent. And I am no pressure signs, none whatsoever. And so I went up to my next step up to 38.6 grains of the N540, and I hit back into the firing pin hole. First time I saw some signs of that. But at 2,700 feet per second, I'm ungodly way out there. Now, I'm going to jump forward and just go to where I was at for 40 grains of Lever Guns 50. And I will tell you this, not Lever Guns 50. Hey, Jeremy, how you doing? Leverevolution's, Hornady's Leverevolution powder. And I got to 40 grains with it. Now, I'm getting with that 2609, 2625, and 2622. So average wise, 100 feet per second slower for the same volume of powder. Now, here's the part that really makes me start asking questions, because I'm over here now and I'm looking at, I gotta find it. Hold on, let me set this down. I don't need it anymore anyway. Okay, so I jumped up to the Hornady GMX, which is a full copper monolithic type of bullet, which is kind of where I'm hoping this goes to. But again, I start out at 38 grains, which is exactly 0.9 tenths higher than what my old load was. And my velocities, 2742, 2737, and 2707, and then 2733. Pretty doggone good numbers, and to me just hard to believe. Either I have created the best Ackley improved project in my history of doing Ackley improved projects, or this thing's 100% wrong, because I've only increased my velocity or my capacity or charge by, right now, increased my velocity by over 15%. Now, unless I'm doing this math in my head wrong, that just seems unbelievable. But I did go to 39 grains. And I hit 2757, 2774, 2777, and 2778. Now at this point, I'm just barely over a 5% increase in my charge. And I'm hitting beyond 300 Savage numbers. And it's just, I'm actually asking for somebody's input, not only on this, but what you think this is going to, because originally I was going to go clear to 40 grains just like I did with the other, and I had even some 40.5 with me, but for that day I was only going to go to 40. Ran out of time because I had a kid to get from school to a doctor's appointment. But at this point, am I thinking wrong? Am my math wrong? But as far as the velocities that this is telling me, I'm actually above what this tells me even